Okay. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the GatherVerse SHE Summit. This is going to be I believe, one of our final talks for the day. I'm super excited that we have a full screen of beautiful women that are here to share. So thank you so much for joining us. We're a little bit behind on this, but I do want everybody to know that this is about technology, creativity, and women coming into the intersection of that and wellness. And that's why we're all here today, is to collaborate and share information with other women in hopes to continue to help to facilitate their growth and their expansion along with us. So thank you. So first question coming to you, ladies, is how do you integrate creativity into your leadership style, especially in the tech industry? Love this one. And the last one, we kind of did a little bit of an open forum. So we do have to keep things short, but I would like if a couple of you could answer quickly to each one of these questions. So I'll leave it open. Does somebody want to jump in on this?
Sure. Oh, well, I'd be happy to. I don't think that I have answers to all the other to many of the other questions. So I'd love to just start by saying that, and I don't know how you all feel about this, but I think that creativity comes from guiding clients to understand and imagine how they can use different technologies to accomplish whatever their goals are. And the creativity also comes from helping them translate those ideas to take maximum advantage of whatever the features of the technology that they use are. We typically work with museums and cultural organizations, so we're usually working with teams of people. So there's a sort of creativity involved in bringing teams of people together, to agree on something.
Yeah, collaboration and creativity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's the most amount of people that you've had in a situation like that where you've had multiple creators coming together to collaborate?
Oh, I think probably something we did for the Rubin Museum that we're still working on, which is an installation called the Mandala Lab. And a mandala is a Buddhist device, or even a Hindu device that, some people know, right? That allows people to learn about their emotions and get a better handle on them in order to basically be happier and be kinder in the world. And we had a team of about, I guess we were maybe 20 people altogether working on that at certain times. But if I have an opportunity, I'd like to talk about another project later on. So I'm happy to turn it over to somebody else.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin. Mary.
Myself. Hello, everyone. So creativity is probably the only way I survive at any career. I was a journalist for over 25 years, and I think one has to be very creative when working with clients from the age of 2 and up. As a hypnotherapist, I find that creating scripts comes quite easily for me, but I'm dealing now with clients who some of them have aphantasia, which is their inability to actually imagine anything. Or they can hold on to the idea of an apple for about 2 seconds, and then they close their eyes and they can't imagine anything else. So I have been trying to combine VR and AR to help with phobias and post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's so much research now coming out of all sorts of different places, universities, Saudi Arabia, Netherlands, Switzerland, in Basel inclusive. They're doing some augmented reality with the fear of spiders. And it really helps people who just simply can't imagine things, but are holding on to post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I'm combining these things now to help people, obviously continuing with hypnotherapy and using audio kinesthesia. I'm a nervous speaker myself today.
You're so good. You're so good.
Kinesthetic technology, uses as well. But we really find that I'm really finding that it's really advancing work with people who just simply can't imagine things. And now we can just combine two worlds and help them through and make a life-changing experience for them. So that's my little thing that I'm doing with Change Hypnotherapy. Thank you.
Incredible. Thank you. I'm going to move to the next question. Can you share an example of a project where creativity significantly contributed to its success? Yes. Eva.
In my case, creativity allowed me to, I draw invisible patterns in nature and in perception. So by understanding how perception works and being able to draw the structure of the gears of thinking where constructs are projected, I basically inspire people to see within themselves how they perceive, so they can free their creativity, understanding how the structure of reality is a hologram, or how their perception can open any potential, and how you challenge your own belief system, how you create your own emotions by comparing what you know with what is happening. And that is because I'm really visual. Other people are auditive or sensorial, but I'm super visual. So in my case, my hyper visual skill allow others to maybe heal some the fantasia that she was talking about, or to free their creativity in a way that they can imagine other things that before they believed was impossible. And understanding wholeness as consciousness, or a holographic structure where it has no absence, you can basically improve your creativity. And many of the people I work with, they basically become limitless in laughing or creating things that were more useful or less limited than before. And another thing is about making it joyful, because sometimes we take ourselves too serious and the task we are developing too serious. So freeing your creativity allows to make it more fun and like create a better environment. So people are more creative when they are like in a kind environment or in a playful environment. They become more creative even. So joy is a really important skill that I think we have to improve, and to free creativity of others, because in a pressure environment, people are not in fear. You don't bloom in creativity. So that's my perspective. As more you see the invisible and you make visible the invisible, suddenly the impossible is possible. So that's my point.
Yes, I love that. Does anybody else? Megan, I saw you really like shaking your head on this one too, and Lucy, it sounds like you both want to contribute on this one. So let's move quickly, but I do want to hear your contributions.
Yeah, I'm happy to share an example. So it's taking a different angle a little bit in terms of how creativity is integrated in this project. But the example that I wanted to share was VR environments that we used for assessment. And I should probably say that my background is VR, working in virtual reality for assessment and learning and development and training. And we had a couple of environments specifically for assessing early careers. And our challenge was to create a coaching experience for senior leaders using those same environments. And what I love about it is that, I mean, the credit doesn't go to me. Shout out to Hannah Lee and Sarah who worked on it, a coach and a designer who spent a lot of time experimenting, failing, trying, letting go of certain things that didn't work, and then trying again, to come up with a coaching experience using virtual reality as a tool for a really impactful self-insight experience, which is associated with coaching, which is really, really impactful for behavior change and development for senior leaders. So that's an example I wanted to share, where creativity is used to experiment and use virtual reality in a different way that we might have not thought of.
Thank you. Anybody else on this one? Okay. We'll move to the next question. How do you maintain personal wellness while working in high-pressure tech environments? Oh, I love this one. Okay, Megan, you're all in.
Perfect. I'm ready. Thank you very much, ladies. Honored to be here. My first overlay is I like to look at everything with the masculine, feminine, and the bridge. So for this, I see the masculine is the tech, the feminine is the creativity, and the wellness is the bridge. So for me, this is my passion. I have tools for transformation. I think that it's super important for everyone to have their, and this is a really masculine term that's coming up, ammunition in their tool bag. So know what your go-to is. Is it breath? Is it journaling? Is it being outdoors? So when you have the signs of stress coming up, for me, my body is a barometer. I may get thirsty. I may start speaking quickly. I may get a little pain in the back of my neck. And I learned this like 30 years ago. There's signs for me to stop. It's like, remember when you're a kid, stop, look, and listen? It's to stop. Turn the computer off. Go outside. Take a breath. Call your child. I mean, whatever it is for you, we all have our own unique ways of thriving on the planet in humanity. So know what your tools are, or find someone to help you find what your tools are.
Thank you. That's great advice. Yeah, Trish.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I love GatherVerse, and it's so nice to meet everyone. For me, wellness can be challenging in the tech industry. So some of the things that I've done is really dive in deep into getting to know myself better, because the more that I get to know myself, the more that I know my needs, the better that I do in wellness overall. I mean, really building this company has taken a lot of my day-to-day routine away, or I've allowed it to. So I'm really trying to integrate some of that back in now. But for me, I'm an introvert, even though I'm so outgoing. So I like to spend time by myself in complete silence and solace with my dog. Animals are really good. Mm-hmm. Animal therapy, going outside, speaking to friends that are in alignment. And I love what everyone else shared so far. What Megan shared about kind of gauging, like, how does it feel in my body? So how does a specific conversation make me feel? And is it in alignment? That's kind of what I've been tapping into a lot recently. And also surrendering to a lot of the things that are out of my control. I can't control everything, even though I want to. That's tough for somebody like me, who's an alpha female. So kind of surrendering to what can I handle and what can I not, and then just letting it go and letting it flow.
Great advice. Thanks, Trish. And Paige, I know that you can add on this too.
Absolutely. Well, it's incredible to hear the other panel members' points, because I hear my own voice within this. When I have high highs or low lows, I tend to find myself back in an equilibrium when I lean back into my community by being present and in the moment, going to XR Women or my XR Fitness group, but most of all with teaching and guiding, leaning into my own community members in the Women in Horizon group. We've been doing this class, Building Empowerment, and it's incredible. We work together to learn world building skills and scripting. And it's like an incredibly intimate ritual of like using the tools to literally stretch or draw out trauma or bad feelings within ourselves, right? So the trauma specialist Bessel van der Kolk talked about in his book, The Body Knows the Score, how trauma or fears and bad experiences or just our daily micro traumas of highs or lows live in our bodies. So like building and world building, that's like literally like takes what's inside of you and you can reshape it with simple shapes and forms. Now, in this class, we do things like build a fire and then create a script and learn how to make an object to put in the fire to make room for something new, or amplify our voices with voice scripting lessons. And all of these things, you know, sometimes on a Tuesday, I feel like not teaching the class and just like reverting into isolation. But then I have this, and that showing up in presence, right? Showing up to my own events keeps me accountable, and the community is always that time with somebody in the metaverse or even on a video call.
Leaning in.
That, yeah, leaning into my community.
Thank you. Thank you, Paige. I think that that's also great advice. Thank you. Next question. How do you balance technological innovation with the human aspect of creativity and wellness? Yes, Lisa, take the floor. You got to unmute, Lisa, unmute.
Sorry, I thought you unmuted me. Sorry, it took 10 minutes for the system to let me in, so that's why I was a little late. I was waiting in the holding room. So for me, I come from a technology background in that I'm a filmmaker, and I worked for a long time, a couple of decades on blockbuster films. And so creativity and artistry drove the invention of that technology, including AI. We've been using AI in the film industry for about 30 years. In animation, visual effects specifically, but also in building out pipelines for doing large films. I also took a break. Also, pertinent to that is I would supervise about 1,000 people on a daily basis. And then I took a break and I co-founded the first fund on the planet for climate change, carbon reduction technologies back in 2004. And so I was the only woman in that environment. I was going to say also, but women started growing in the technology side of the film industry, but I was still predominantly the only woman at most of the tech meetings. So the point I want to make is one, creativity, imagination, the mind is what drives technology innovation, always have. It's always based on the human body. Whatever we discover, whatever we become conscious of within our human body, we emulate that, and we try to build a technology that can actually do what the human body does. Mm-hmm. So it's our own imagination that drives innovation, but it's also the business demands. Whether you're doing a fund and it's new technology you introduce into the planet for a specific purpose, or you're working on a film, whether it's AR-driven, VR-driven, XR vision, AR, or whether it's just a blockbuster Hollywood film, it's always the human that drives the innovation. As far as balancing wellness and creativity, I teach people how to generate more consciousness. Yes, you can journal, and yes, you can meditate, and but learning to channel and generate more consciousness in the moment that you need it is really, really important. Because you can't step away if you're in the middle of a deadline. You can't step away if you're in a meeting. You can't step away if you're interviewing tech companies for potential investment. You have to generate consciousness while you need it. Generate energy for yourself while you need it. Generate focus and concentration while you need it. So I teach people that, and I learned that through direct personal experience. What I do in my spare time is I come from a lineage of traditional women medicine holders up in northern Canada. And so I was lucky to grow up with the Northern Lights, which makes me different than most people. And I study medicine. So in my spare time, I study medicine, Chinese medicine. I was in China 10 years working, but I also study medicine in my spare time. I've been studying Tibetan medicine the last 6 years in my spare time. And I find the understanding of my mind, my body, and my spirit also helps me innovate technology, because technology is birthed from ourselves, from humanity.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you for that share. I think we can probably take the next question, or you want to add on that, but it sounds, oh, we just moved. So here we go. So can you discuss a challenge that you faced in integrating tech, creativity, and wellness, and how you addressed it? Does anybody want to take the lead on this one? Can you discuss how a challenge that you faced in integrating technology, creativity, and wellness, and how did you address it? Eva.
I've created several virtual reality scenarios for people to understand perception. So I spent several hours painting 3D models for people to get inside and see what they use to perceive through the hard disk of memory, how conditioning works, how fragmentary perception works. And that damaged my sight a lot. So I lost a lot of vision. And for that, I started creating patterns of exercise of visual yoga, for example, and making a real routine of like cutting the time I spend painting VR and respecting the organism. I had to study like anatomy of the eye and seeing why the VR, not only because the headset now has all the trackers that were before in tripods in the room. So now all this EMF radiation is frying your brain and your sight. And for me, it was really worrying, because I saw the community placing those gears in the schools and in kids that they have a thinner skull. So I spent several hours advising people like, hey, we are not aware of what is going on. And so I, instead of like improving or the VR world, I end up becoming like an awareness advisor for people to say like, don't place that in a skull that is still a child. Be aware of technology, EMF frequencies that are not proportional, because the engineers do their best with what they know, but they don't understand nature proportions and wavelengths. So they develop technology that end up being harmful. So I end up having to learn a lot of skills about being in nature, going to trees when the sunset or in the sunrise, because that enhances your life force. Because working with technology can really fry you and change your organism in a way that you didn't expect. But that made me improve, and I end up having to study a lot of medicine and anatomy to recover. So I just ask everyone after that, like, be aware of not playing headsets in kids' heads, or being aware of maybe exploring biogeometry science, that is a science from Egypt that allows to harmonize technology by placing specific artifacts in the technology, so the frequencies that comes from the headset are harmonized and doesn't fry you. That's my case. I was really sad because I love painting, and VR is amazing to draw the invisible, but you have to be aware of the damage of the EMF.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for sharing your story so that it can actually help others, right? And others can be aware of it. So we're grateful for you for that. What role does technology play in enhancing the creative process and well-being, or personal well-being? So we're on the same one. Paige, you feel like you've got something to add here?
Sure. I believe the role that technology plays in enhancing creative processing and personal well-being is like a integrated best friend. Of course, we just heard that, yes, there are frequencies that can be damaging, But along with that, looking at like a different part of the way that it can actually also heal us. It can sometimes, when we have challenges, we can make best friends with them. So having technology as our, like, a lover or a family member or a relative in our perspective can allow us to grow like it's a garden. There was a moment where there was toxicity, and I drew a flower and posted it online and invited anybody in the world to remix that flower garden. And over 4,000 people contributed to that VR garden. So
incredible.
We can create that best friend relationship with these tools.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Paige. Thank you for that ad. And does anybody else want to add on this one before we move to yes, Robin. Oh, and Robin's got balloons. Hello.
That was a surprise. So I have a sort of a different take on this, because we're working on a project also right now with virtual reality to develop a VR platform that's going to teach interpersonal skills using a methodology that was developed at the Museum of Modern Art about 30 years ago. It's called Visual Thinking Strategies. And it's based on having very carefully facilitated discussions about art to teach these interpersonal skills like observation skills, close listening, team building, perspective taking, and empathy. And I think art is really good for thinking, in part because it represents the human experience in all its diversity, you know? So in our pilot program, we're partnering with the University of Miami Medical School and also the School of Nursing and General Studies and the Lowe Art Museum to train medical, nursing, and physical therapy students in these essential non-technical skills in order to improve patient care. Because typically students will have to go to a museum for VTS sessions, and bringing this type of education into VR means that students can have access to this training regardless of where they are, whether they're near a museum or not. And thus students, clinicians, and ultimately patients who live in rural and often culturally poor areas where museums and high quality medical services are often lacking will be able to benefit. So that's sort of a different take on using the technology to improve well-being.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm all about the using it for medical and wellness, right? And really diving into that and how it can be beneficial. And Trish, I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to move on to the next question right after this.
So I also have a bit of a different take on it. For me, I see there's a multitude of benefits to technology helping with wellness and creativity. But for me, it really also gets rid of borders that were otherwise implemented by society or small towns or whatever. Like, I never really fit in the box, and my friends basically were all over the world. So technology for me really bridges the gap for me to be able to find like-minded people, especially as the world is ascending and humanity is waking up and leveling up on a conscious level. So for me, I love the component of it being creative enough to give us the opportunity to find like-minded people to spend time with. When we travel, we're able to meet our friends, like all you girls. If I'm in the same city, I would love to see you. And I would have never had that opportunity if it wasn't for technological advances and bridging the gap with borders that are otherwise there.
No question. Thanks, Trish. And Megan, I think that you maybe wanted to say something quickly on this one too. My apologies.
I just wanted to totally agree with Trish. I'm here because of Instagram, because I found Alida there. And the technology for education. I'm in a year-long mentoring course that's mostly online. So just agreeing with everything that's been said. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies, here's our next question. How do you keep yourself creatively inspired and motivated in the tech industry? Lucy, do you got something for us on this? I knew it.
Yeah. So yeah, happy to share on this because what keeps me, there's two things I think. What keeps me motivated is collaboration, networking, and getting inspired by people like on this panel, people on the other panels that we've had across the last 2 days, and anybody who's doing some disruptive work, who's being brave, who's taking risks, who's doing things differently, especially when we're working with emerging technologies. Kind of anything goes in some respects. We can still experiment. No real rules or best practices are written yet. I mean, there are some, and we probably need more for obvious reasons. But in terms of getting creative and inspired, there's so much we can do. And I think meeting with amazing people like on this panel that are doing really innovative and creative things, I think that's what keeps me most motivated and inspired. And then the second thing that I would say, I use virtual reality a lot for creativity, to get me inspired. If I'm stuck in a rut, I use it for my coaching clients. We go into space, we go into a deserted island, in a forest, on a beach, to think differently and to get creative.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks. I appreciate that ad so much. And Mary, do you have anything you want to add in on this one?
No, just I'm 100% agreeing with Lucy, because unless I have someone to work with, I have my clients that I work with, but I would always fall back on just using my imagination and my voice to kind of get them through a situation. And it's so nice because I cannot even draw a straight line. So it is really nice to be able to take my creative visions and collaborate with someone who has the skill set that can actually put pen to paper or into VR. And it makes you work harder. I think you work harder for others, at least I do. And it feels great when something comes of it. So yeah, I love that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next question. Can you share insights on how wellness practices have impacted your professional effectiveness and creativity? Lisa, do you want to add? Yeah, I figured.
I must self-unmute. Well, everything's about self-awareness, generating more consciousness, generating more focus. That's what combined together generates more self-awareness. And then those three things combined together generate personal energy. And so going inward, which I pretty much live inward, I've cultivated that over a few decades of being inward, or perhaps I was born that way, I don't know. But I did notice with myself and others that I work with, creating situations where you have somebody else, you direct someone to go inside themselves. I direct myself to go inside myself. So we're not looking for answers outside of us or someone to step in and fix, rescue, heal, and save us from any situation that we may be concentrating on and transforming.
Mm-hmm.
And so wellness practices for me have always been about generating consciousness and self-awareness. There are so many ways of doing that on the planet. If you're fortunate to be born with that inclination, great. But if you're born in societies or educated in cultures, born into cultures, educated in societies, both of those apply, where you're more outwardly focused, like the US, I'm from Canada, as I said earlier, although I live in Los Angeles, very outward-looking society. People do lose track of themselves. They do lose their space. They don't necessarily, as their first instinct, go inside themselves to seek whatever it is energetically they're looking for. So there's no such thing as solutions. It's just things in transition, things that are constantly moving and changing shape, whether it's the technology that's constantly evolving and changing shape, or it's the human brain or the mind center, in your lower body. Everything is always changing shape. And so if people understand that there's no such thing as a problem, that's self-imposed. No one's at fault, that's self-imposed. And all you have to do is watch your energy level and notice when you need to generate more energy, and watch your consciousness and awareness, and whether it's on yourself or whether it's on other people to come and fix, rescue, heal, and save you. And generally leads to some kind of drama. And so if you create an environment for yourself and lead from yourself, being inward, then other people respond to that, are inspired by that, and ask you what it is that you're doing that keeps you focused and energized.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Megan, you have something you want to say in this?
So much. I love that, because I've learned that I practice energy states with people. And some of us are internal, and that's where our home is. And some of us are external, and that's where our home is. So it's knowing what your unique energy is. So for me, it's community, it's getting out there, it's nature. So that's what I've got. It's the same thing over and over again. Know your style, know your truth, know how to serve humanity, because we all have our own unique recipe.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, our next question. And Robin, everybody's jealous of your balloons, by the way. Just had to toss that in. I mean, I don't know how you did it, but everybody's impressed. What advice would you give to emerging leaders looking to blend tech, creativity, and wellness in their careers? Oh, I love this one. So what advice would you give, ladies? Yeah, Lucy.
My advice is very quick and simple. I think it's collaborate, network. And when I say network, it's just talk to people about what you're interested in, talk about what you're curious about, be really curious, ask loads of questions, and experiment. And that's my advice. And maybe be a bit braver as well in doing things differently.
Thank you. Paige, do you have anything that you'd like to add on this one?
Absolutely. I would share to learn and embrace your value, and share your value, speak up, use your voice. And as you share value, you're helping to bring people together, right? So that somebody else may also feel valued or empowered. And also, as you grow, offset or give back. Always like mentor and provide pathways for those around you. Because when one rises, if we all rise together, we're really making a better world.
Mm-hmm. So Mary, go ahead. And then I'm going to add touch a little on this too. I'm super passionate about all the things we talked about here on the screen. So I'm right there with all of you, super just like bubbling inside. Mary, what do you got?
So I was just going to say that there's so much on offer right now. There's just every day I open up and there's a new Midjourney or there's something else that has been thrown at us. And I would say that try to just listen to your intuition and see what it is that is missing from your wellness program or your clients. What are they asking you for? What do they need the most help with that is lacking? And then do the research, because there's so many aspects to get caught into. There's so many different technologies that are coming out all at once. And as a journalist, I found that every time I bought a bigger camera, cameras got smaller or they changed, and it went from tapes to VHS to DVD to all these different things. And you can actually get very depressed or kind of fall off the wagon of hope when it comes to all the technology, because it moves quickly. So just find what's missing, focus on it. If you don't have everything, which is a problem with me, I have all these ideas and it doesn't come together right when I need it because I don't have the skill set. But things are moving fast, and if you stick to what you know and you look and you see what's available, the right things will come together. Patience, research, and stick to it. That's my advice.
Persistent. Yeah. Persistent. Yes, thank you. So I just want to say on the whole consciousness aspect of things, right? So I did a tremendous amount of building and designing during the pandemic with groups of medical practitioners in New York City. So when everybody else, their job went dormant, I happened to be in a position to where all of a sudden my entire universe sped up, because now we're saving lives and we don't really know what we're dealing with. But to Lisa's point, and Megan and many of you who I've heard, it was the conscious awareness ability that I've cultivated through the years myself, the ability to stay in the present moment awareness and be able to work with everything as it was happening, right? And as all the departments were changing and everything was shifting. And I can promise all of you that when you really lock into your conscious awareness and you stay in that pivotal point of being, everything works out. It's incredible to me how almost all of my entire career literally dropped in, right? And it was all available to me in those exact moments when I needed them the most in order to do all of the things that we had to do. The creativity was off the chain because creative solutions had to be found. And that's how I've trained myself to think for centuries. It feels like decades for sure, decades without exaggeration. So that's my powerful add on this. And also the fact that, psychology and neuroscience says that humanity on an overall whole is conscious about 5% of the time, and that we're running on our subconscious mind about 95% of the time. And I think that's way out of balance. So we really should start training our brains, because the latest technology has been created to mimic our brain and pattern after all of our skill sets and our gifts. And we haven't even begun to touch the surface yet. But technology is allowing us to understand more about our brains, right? And more about our capability. But we don't even know yet, ladies. We don't get ready. Put your seatbelts on. Anybody else? One last add before we go, before we have to part ways, which I'll be sad about. Kim or Lisa, I'm sorry.
I agree with everything everyone said today. To thy own self be true. People used to call me a projection Jedi because I would magically make things happen. And so it's exactly what you were just saying. It's trusting in being in the moment, and that where you are today is exactly where you're supposed to be, and what you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. There's a lot of medicine practices that teach the color chakra, which is future, present, and past are actually all happening simultaneously. Meaning that I'm a futurist, so part of me is imagining the future and what I'm going to do after this panel finishes. Part of my consciousness is on that. Part of me is present with you now. Part of me, is talking about experience I had that I consciously am aware of has already happened. So I am in future, present, and past right now. And so as we evolve as human beings, each one of us chooses to use our free will to develop our willingness to evolve ourselves. And that makes you a Jedi. So learn some Jedi training.
Jedi's up in here, yeah. I agree with the Jedi action up in here today. That's for sure. That's ladies. Anybody else? We have a few moments left. Does anybody else want to drop any other hot potatoes before we bounce out of here?
One thing that came up for me is that the feminine is self-regulating, the creativity. A red flag for me is in the future that how do we keep AI self-regulated? So just words from the future.